back to the channel. On today's video, I have a very special guest with us. Her name is Elaine. She is the owner of K9s in New Jersey. She is known as the Reactive Dog Advocate, and she is here today to talk to us about the topic of reactivity. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Elaine?
Yeah. So, like Michelle said, my name's Elaine. I'm the owner and head trainer at K9s, and I pretty much started this business because when you think of a scary German Shepherd, you think of what my dog used to be like. So, I really just delved into everything balance training and just wanted to make her the best and happiest dog that I could possibly get, because the way she was living, she wasn't happy, and I obviously could tell by how she was acting. So I delved into balance training myself, and I went to my own personal trainers, and then I just didn't stop after that. I just kept researching and learning, and then I went to school for it, and then it just kind of went from there. And then I trained my friends' dogs, and I was like, hey, maybe I should make money for this because I'm doing it a lot. And then it turned into a business, and yeah, so here we are now.
Yeah, and what I honestly loved about your social media page and everything is how much you talk about Kala. You have your whole company is named after her, so I know that you have I know that you have a very special bond with her, and especially with the issues of reactivity that you've mentioned on your social media. I know that working through that requires a lot of involvement from the owner's part, and you start to almost understand your dog on a deeper level, and I feel like that's what happened with Dante. So that's something that I thought was really cool about you, because it was like I found somebody to relate to, so I thought it was really cool. As I mentioned before, I know that you have a very special bond with Kala, so I was curious to know if you have ever owned any other dogs before, if she was your first shepherd. I was curious to know if she was your first dog.
So Kala is my first personal dog. Like growing up, I always had dogs. I had poodles my whole life.
Me too.
Yeah. So, are you serious?
Yes. Kid you not.
That is so weird. What the heck? So we're both from New Jersey. We both only had poodles, and then we get two of the hardest breeds, per se.
Yeah.
So that's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's so oh my God. So yeah, I had poodles my whole life. Obviously, when you're younger, you don't think of your dog being as reactive, but I'd say the small one, of course, he was a terror. He would bite everybody. He was a bad boy. But he lived a good life. He was 15 when he passed. It's crazy. So she was my first. This is so weird. I can't. Oh my God. All right, this is what you knew. I was like, hey, I like this girl, and you followed me, and then it just went from there. Oh my God.
So crazy.
This is so weird. So she was my first personal dog. We were kind of going through a lot. My husband's best friend had passed, and then he was just it was my old manager from Hollister, and she was like, oh, I'm getting a German Shepherd puppy. They're super cheap, and my friend from school's dad bred them. Red flag right there, looking back. But even so, we were just all right, we're not looking for another dog per se, because Jarvis was with us for a while because he's my mom's. But it was when we first got married and things like that. So we just went, and I hated her living conditions. It was ridiculous. So her mom was super people aggressive when we got there. They were taken off her at 4 weeks because she shouldn't have been bred. She was really aggressive towards the puppies, and they were just in this box they were smelly, and she had fleas when we got home. And so they took them out to show us them, and they would just throw food at them on the porch. And she was only 4 weeks when we met her. And so Zach was I really don't want to take a dog home, especially if we don't connect with it, especially from here. And I was I understand, but I don't even want a dog living here. I was it's $200 out of our life. That's nothing in the scheme of things. I was so if a dog does connect with us, I don't want to leave it here. So none of the dogs even cared about us. They were all just going to eat, and Kala walks over, and she looks at my husband, and she just stares at him, and then he picks her up, and she just passed out. I was oh, there it goes. And then he put her over to me and she looked at me and gave me a kiss and then fell back asleep. I was like, well, we're getting a dog. So we brought her home at 6 weeks and, she was always very timid and more fearful. She didn't have like, the standard well-bred shepherd mentality of like, a little aloofness, but very like fearless and, ready to work and please. And she was always a little bit of trouble. When I always thought we were training her right. And then once we realized later on we weren't, it was, sit a million times, down, she felt like coming, we'd let her come, but, classic stuff that you don't really think about being important until your dog's reactivity starts. And then when she was around 1.5, she got really crazy and just, I couldn't walk her anymore. I used to walk her or run her every single day, but she never had a good heel or anything. She would drag me. But I couldn't even see someone from like 200 feet down the road without her just losing her mind. So I couldn't walk past dogs. I couldn't walk past people. I was like the owner that would literally see someone from far away and I would like run the other way and like not want her to even see them. So it got to the point where it was just really bad. She started going after people. Like if I was home alone and one of my friends came over that she didn't really know, she would try and bite them and lunge at them. And she almost got a few people, but it worked out that she didn't. And then I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm obviously doing something wrong. It can't be her because every dog has the potential to, be crazy and scary like this. And I know that I'm doing something wrong. And then it kind of just went from there, honestly.
Right. Wow. So so you had your first poodle, like you had poodles growing up, but she was your really like first dog for you personally experience.
Exactly.
That's interesting. So for me, it was, had a poodle, 15 years. His little black poodle, his name was Scrappy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I had a black one too.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? That's crazy.
This is ridiculous.
How have we never like met in person? Like that's the only thing that's left.
I literally have no idea.
So he also was very snappy dog. Like you couldn't touch him in certain areas. Like he would just go off on you.
Foam.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, it's obviously because, we had, I don't know, I feel like because I was very young owning him, I obviously didn't know like how to correct him for that behavior. Like I was just like a kid, so.
You don't care.
Yeah, but
he's silly.
It's really interesting though, because a lot of times I feel like smaller dogs tend to get away with like those kind of behaviors, whereas like these two, they have never ever done anything even close to what Scrappy has done. And if they did, it would be terrifying, like for people, because they're much larger and they don't get as much slack. But very interesting. That's so funny that there's so much. Okay, I'm very interested in seeing what else we have in common.
There's so many similarities.
Okay, so I know that Kala is like a model citizen now, even though she was, barking and lunging.
Scary.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So, I see that she's like out with you, that, you take her to places as well. So, she's clearly grown a lot from what she was before. So, personally having a dog with reactivity issues, a lot of times when people see Dante, because he's so obedient and he's so well behaved, they don't believe that he has reactivity issues, or they don't actually like realize that he could have some triggers to certain things, right? Because he's just like kept to himself, very well behaved. So I'm sure that you probably get this a lot too. So can you tell me like a little bit about, you already mentioned how Kala's reactivity kind of started, but can you mention a little bit how you dealt with her while you were taking her to train to places and with people? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that had to change, honestly, was my confidence in handling her. I had zero confidence with her outside anywhere. I'd be like, oh, like I was like, I literally be like hunched up, like, oh God, what is she gonna do next? And even going to training, the first training session I had with my trainer, I remember he was like, she is the most scared dog in the world. And I don't know why. I never heard that before. I never really cared about dog training, honestly. Like I wanted a well-trained dog, but I didn't know how to go about it. And because he was like, when you walked in here, she didn't bark and lunge and freak out. It was her immediate reaction was to hide behind you. And I was like, well, I'm scared, so why is she hiding behind me?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? What do you mean? Like, I'm scared. I don't know what she's going to do, but she obviously doesn't know what I'm going to do either. So I think for me, that was one of the biggest things that I had to change, is that, okay, I can handle whatever situation we get into for my dog. So the biggest thing for me was that change in confidence. And even sometimes, like even now, I train other German Shepherds who are bigger than her, who have had bite records and bitten people. And even sometimes, because she's my own personal dog, I'm like, oh, can she do this? I'm like, duh, she can do this. Why am I even saying that? You know? But that was a really big thing. And then just slowly increasing. I feel like every owner, because we know our dogs can do it, when they're in those fresh beginning stages of training, we push them too far. A lot of them pass their thresholds, and we're like, they can do it, they can do it, they can do it. But we don't think about their body language, and we're not reading them to be like, okay, they're not ready for this yet. So it was just getting more in tune with her. Like I would really have to pay attention to her body language and her signals to be like, okay, she really isn't ready for this yet. And she doesn't feel comfortable, and she doesn't feel strong enough to do this. I know she can, but just not yet. So I think my confidence level had to change a lot, and then really being in tune with how she was feeling in those situations and understanding her thresholds a bit more for that in her first stages.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you say that, because I feel like a lot of times there is a reason why a dog develops certain behaviors, but a lot of times you see that they are amplified, you know, because of their owners. So yeah, so it would be really interesting is when Dante started to present his reactivity issues. So just to give you again a little bit of context, just because I don't think I've ever told you exactly how it started, but the first trainer that we took Dante to was like a positive reinforcement only trainer, and yeah, and that completely did not work, especially for his breed. And it just really made, if he was scared about something, the way that they would handle it would just worsen his behavior.
Shove a treat in their face and try and make them do something else.
Exactly. Yeah. And like I think the most like crazy thing that they would do is like actually cover like the little pen that we would be in, so that he wouldn't see the other dogs or the trainers, but that would just make everything worse. So yeah, I think so. When you were talking about confidence, once we started to go to another dog trainer that specifically worked with e-collar. She has her diaper on. She's on her lady time. Yeah, it's like bright pink.
I know, he's here like, oh my god.
And she's like trying to make herself comfortable.
Someone help me.
Oh my god, no.
She's being so cute.
Don't worry, Peach is like she's a whole vibe. Like my sister came to visit us. Actually, she just left today, and she was just like in love with Peach. Oh, wow. Because she was like, oh my god, Peach's personality is just like, she's so cute.
She's a peach.
Yeah, exactly. So then we started going to this other trainer, and he was an e-collar trainer, and the first thing that I had to change was myself when it came to Dante, because again, like you said, I wasn't confident, and I was really, when I was at home, obviously because there weren't his triggers or anything like that, like I never really enforced anything with him. Like I never really was like, the strict parent. Like I was just like, just
same
cuddles, like
do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. And then if I wanted him to do something and he didn't, I really didn't know how to handle it, and I would be embarrassed. But that was just my relationship to start off with Dante. So I had to change that, and then so that we could work on harder things like his triggers. So like that's literally like the first thing I had to do, fix my relationship with him at home, and then work on him outside, and obviously with like the guidance of a trainer, because I really didn't know what to do at that point. But what I was curious for you to, as a recommendation or as a tip for somebody who's dealing with a reactive dog, what would you say was something that really helped you in, gaining confidence? Because a lot of times, it's like you go out there and that thing gets your dog like freaked out, so it's like, okay, I have to relax, but I know that thing gets my dog freaked out and it's coming closer. Should I like do something? Like, what's going on? So I feel like, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh my god, I can't get my dog nervous. Like, so what advice would you give people to help them, relax, be more confident, What would you tell people?
Um, so it sounds pretty dumb, but I always like when I would get in that situation, I'd be like, just take a second and breathe. Like, don't think about the whatever their trigger is. Don't think about how they could possibly react. Just because every time you see those triggers, you start automatically thinking, oh my God, they're going to freak out. They're going to freak out. They're going to bark. They're going to lunge. Just take a second for yourself to breathe and then redirect. Like literally just be like, ah, like, just let it go from your body and then go the other way. And if they do react, all you do, no, and a quick pop. And it seems like it's like, oh, well, that's so hard. I can't do that, but you're breathing anyway. So just think about it for a second and then just go the other way. And I found like for myself and any of my clients who do have that reactive dog, one of my clients, they had a dog run up on their shepherd who has extreme reactivity to other dogs. He was actually on a walk with another dog for the first time ever in his life. And this dog came up running up to him and he did freak out a little bit because the dog like was coming after him. And she said she was able to calm herself down and get back to the walk with the other dog, and it was fine. So it's like, if you just take a second, even in those scary situations where you do have another dog running up to your dog, even to lunge at them, just take a minute and be like, it'll be fine. Just breathe and then handle it. It really changes your mind frame,
Yeah,
like a lot.
for sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that, like what's important is what you said is like, okay, if there is a freak out, if something happens, like you know what to do. So I think that having knowledge is really important too, because like in that moment, yes, like maybe your first instinct is to also freak out, but then you're like, oh no,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
we've worked through this before, like we know how to handle these situations. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. Okay, so for me, one of the most difficult parts of having a dog with reactivity issues was learning to understand his body language and learning to have a balance for things. So I had to learn, okay, maybe I shouldn't go to this coffee shop at this time because it's really busy, and I do want to train my dog because that's a good thing for him to be social or get socialized and not necessarily get pet by people. But okay, so maybe I have to start going to the coffee shop like much earlier or later in the day or whatever, like any store, whenever the crowds aren't as busy. So that's something that I have to start changing, because a lot of times, like what you said, owners and myself, I wanted to move and progress too quickly with Dante, and I had to remind myself, like, no, like I have to put my dog first in this situation. Like I have to know, like, I have to set him up for success. So the question that I had for you is, what was the hardest thing for you while dealing with Kala's reactivity? Because for me, that was the hardest, like learning about his body language and kind of putting him first. Even though it sounds like, of course you, oh, even though it's so cute. It's okay, I can't help it either. If somebody passes by here, I got a pet. But yeah, so what was the hardest part for you while dealing with her reactivity?
I don't know. There was a lot. It was honestly setting boundaries for myself and for her, because even now sometimes I do struggle with that. It's like, oh, can I pet her? I'm like, well, that's not good for her. Like, so even setting boundaries to this day for her sometimes is hard for me, because everybody, like you said, they see this really well-behaved dog. I'm like, oh my God, she's so good. She's so great. Can I pet her? Can I do this? And it's like, no, you can't. And it's not like it's going to, it's going to be more damaging to her to get pet by some random stranger and she doesn't like it. And more often than not, she would be totally fine. She doesn't care. It's not anything to her at this point. But there could be that person she does care about, and that's not healthy for her, for me to let all these random people come up to her. Oh my God, your dog's so cute. It's like, just because you're not in a police uniform or a canine unit uniform, people think they can kind of do whatever to those dogs, especially, along the lines of socialization. I just want to like clarify that for anybody listening. Like, socialization doesn't mean your dog going up and playing with every dog or every single person at a coffee shop or wherever you go coming to pet them. Socialization just means that your dog is neutral in every environment and wants to work for you. So in that way, like, a lot of people just think, oh my God, let's go and pet every single dog. Well, that not every single dog likes that. And even the most friendly dogs don't always like that, because it's so chaotic to them, even just being in a new environment. They're trying to take in so many things at a time that for us to kind of let anybody do whatever they want and not have boundaries for our dog is selfish. And that's not what makes a happy and healthy dog. Even the friendliest dogs, even if they're not reactive, it doesn't matter because they should be more in tune with you and wanting to be there for you, than letting everybody else do whatever they want, if that makes sense.
And no, it does. It perfectly makes perfect sense. I can relate with you in that sense as well, because a lot of times I would just want to be like, oh my gosh, I wish Dante was like great already. Like I want to take him here. I want to like take him to like this pumpkin patch. I want to go over here. I want to go over there. But in the end of the day, it is selfish, you know, like if you really want to be an advocate for your dog, you have to think like, okay, is this going to be beneficial? You know, is this going to create more positive experiences? So I've seen a lot on, you know, social media that this, you know, word reactivity is being used quite often to describe people's dogs, and I feel that it's almost become like this buzzword, you know, like reactivity, like my dog is reactive. But I wanted for you to, you know, tell us what you consider to be a dog that is truly reactive, and like, you know, when you have your sessions, what are things that you observe in a dog that tells you, you know what, yes, this dog is reactive, as opposed to a dog that maybe is just like a little bit shy, or maybe a dog that, you know, tries to avoid certain situations but doesn't necessarily freak out. So what are those things that you look out for?
If I'm being honest, I feel like so many dogs now are genuinely reactive dogs, because a lot of dogs are getting poorly bred. A lot of dogs are COVID puppies at this point. Even dogs who, you know, were really well socialized and were really chill going out of the house, with that whole year and a half, whatever, that families were home, not doing anything, that changed a lot of dogs' mindset. So a lot of dogs don't know how to interact with people anymore. A lot of dogs don't know how to be around, not even just be around, but just walk past another dog. So I feel like if a dog is truly just like barking, lunging, biting, nipping, and I don't even like to use the word aggressive because there's not many truly aggressive dominant dogs out there. I feel like the word aggression, or I have a dominant or alpha dog, is passed around way too much in the dog world because there's not that many of them. And a lot of people, even human beings in fear, they'll kind of like, you know, act out. They'll get mad, they'll freak out, maybe they'll punch someone, God forbid. But I mean, you know, like a dog biting is kind of the same way as somebody like, hey, get out of my face and I'm going to punch you, like sort of thing. It's not good at all. It's not good. But I feel like certain things like that are just thrown around too much. So I just feel like a reactive dog is any dog that doesn't know how to function under like normal everyday circumstances. You know, they don't know how to just sit and chill and wait. Like even a friendly dog can be considered reactive because, oh, every single person they see, they're jumping, they're lunging, they're trying to get to them. Okay, that's still reactivity. Even if it's a friendly reactivity, it's still something, I feel like. I mean, but I just feel like it's thrown around so much in a negative way, where even a really friendly dog can be reactive. It doesn't really matter if they're trying to go after people or hurt people. It's still a form of reactivity. What do you consider reactivity? Because you're a trainer, so like, what do you say?
So I think that a really I wouldn't want to say black and white, but I've seen a lot of aggressive dogs, like actual aggressive dogs. Yeah. And I feel like I have Dante as like a good measurement, just because I've worked with him. He's my dog, you know, and we've had like so many experiences. Like I see that he is the type of dog that he wants to avoid situations because he is fearful. So he will avoid them. But again, it's not like, it's very funny because somebody once described him as like, if there's like a dog barking at him, it's not like he's gonna go after that dog, but if that dog comes over here, like he'll let them know, yeah, I don't like this, you know, like screw you. So for me, an aggressive dog is, I've seen aggressive dogs, and it's dogs that are literally like, they want to hurt you, like they have this intention that
they couldn't care less. Yeah.
Yes, they'll be like they're redirecting on their leash, biting on things. Like it's just like a whole different thing. Like, you know, it's not, I would say that more reactivity, I would see like a dog that is, you know, again, even though it can be very confused because you can see a big dog lunging and you're like, oh my god, that's an aggressive dog.
No.
But that's not necessarily the case. I feel like you really have to look into why. Like, why is this dog being this way? And I think, you know, again, it's a case by case thing, but again, like a truly aggressive dog wants to go after you and they have the intention to like do some damage.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like a way that I kind of look at it.
Aggression and reactivity are thrown together way too often when there's not, like you said, there's a very big difference, and the word aggression for dogs who are just strictly reactive is thrown around way too often. Yeah, there is a fearful dog who will bite people out of fear because they don't know any other way to act, but there's also those dogs who will literally look at their owner and be like, I don't want to listen and I'm going to bite you in the arm. I don't care. So I just feel like I completely agreeing with you. It's just that people don't know the difference. And then it just gives a bad rep to our big, scary dogs that we have because people just don't know. People aren't educated enough, which I was one of them, to know the difference between the two at this point.
Yes. Yeah, and it's very interesting because it can look the same. Like a reactive dog next to an aggressive dog, you know, the whole barking and everything, it can look very, very similar. But yeah, so yeah, I think it's good that we talked about this because I agree with you. A lot of people can confuse both of them. Again, this doesn't mean like go pet a reactive dog. Their owner is not like, oh, it's not aggressive, so I could definitely go. It's just, you know, you have to tread cautiously and, you know, be respectful of dogs in general, just if you see them in public. So, both of us having had experience with not very good trainers, what do you consider huge red flags in dog trainers? Because you know that right now, you can find dog trainers anywhere, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are good or that they're going to be good for your dog. So what are some things that you can tell people to look out for when they are looking for dog trainers, you know, to address reactivity issues in their dog?
I think anytime that you have a trainer, even if they've been around for years and years and years, and a lot of people recommend them, I feel like you should always have a trainer that wants to talk to you before even working with your dog. Because even on the owner's perspective, say you pay $500 straight out, you hear this trainer is great, you book a session with them, you've never met them, you've never talked to them, whatever, and you get there and you absolutely hate them. And they're just mean and nasty and it's my way or the highway. I feel like everybody should have a trainer that before you even get there, they want to talk to you and they want to get to know your dog and they want to know your background and why this is happening. Like every single potential client I have, I take as much time on the phone as they want to just talk to them and get to know them and get to know their situation, because sometimes you might not be the right fit for that family. And I feel like as a trainer, you have to know that. You can't say, oh yeah, I can fix every single dog in the world, because maybe you can't, honestly. Like maybe you aren't the right fit for that dog. And if somebody says, oh, I've dealt with every single case, I'm great, you know, this and that. And somebody's like, oh, well, what area can you improve in training? And they're like, well, I do everything already. That's a huge red flag, because they think they're the best in the world. And okay, maybe some of their techniques are a little outdated. Maybe something else is going to work for your dog and they don't want to change it for each dog that they're training. I feel like, you know, you should have a trainer that really wants to get to know you and your case beforehand, and a trainer that's always a student. Because if you're not always learning the new ways in the field, or there's new studies and new science, you know, that backs up different techniques in training, I feel like that those two things right there are really big red flag, because you should always want to get to know the people and the dogs that you're working with, and you should always be learning as a trainer ways to get better for the dogs and for your clients and the people. So that's two things for me that I feel like you should always look for, because schooling is great and it really helps build up your background. But you can have somebody that went to the best school in America to, I don't know, anywhere, not even America. You can have somebody that went to the best school for anything, being a lawyer, and they could still be the worst lawyer in the world, even though they paid, you know, $200,000 to go to school. They might not be good at it, you know? So even if somebody went to training school, even if they got the best dog training certificate, since it's not really a regulated thing in America, you know, that doesn't mean they're good. And a lot of people will just look at things like that and say, oh yeah, they're great. And they can't even work with any dog. So
yeah.
That's a few things.
Yeah, I think that it's honestly for me, it's like it's scary if you have a dog trainer that is not willing to, like what you said, is not willing to change something for your dog, or isn't just honest with you and is like, hey, look, this is not going to work. Because I think that it's, a huge red flag if that dog trainer doesn't want to change the method that they're doing. Because I know that there are some dogs that maybe won't respond as well to an e-collar. They're too nervy, So maybe some dogs won't respond as well to leash pressure. I had like a dog that could literally not stand any sensation over their leash. Of course, there are things that we had to work with that dog, but every dog is different and every case is different. And I think that it's especially, concerning if you kind of just put all these dogs in one box to fit a box, because every dog is different, and it's important that this trainer is trying to make something that's catered to your dog, So I agree with that. Similar to Dante's situation, when we went to the positive reinforcement only place, they didn't accept any kind of prong collar on him. So we got in there and they're like, you need to take this off immediately. Get this Hermspringer off of him. Like, this is not acceptable. I remember one of them said, Cesar Millan ruined it for everybody. It was just like, yeah, it was just so like, we're like, okay. But at the time, we wanted to, it was like this prestigious place, and like there are all these other kind of dogs there as well, because there was like some group sessions, and like they had a good reputation, so we're like, okay, like we better listen to what these people are saying. So it was just a mixture of things, but knowing now in hindsight, that would have been like the biggest red flag, because it would have been like, okay, yeah, we need to get out of here, like this is not okay. And especially when you have a big dog, or not even a big dog. I think that every dog benefits from a balanced form of training. And I think that it's important that you have a clear communication with your dog, so they understand when they did something wrong, as well as they understand when they did something really good, so that they want to keep doing it. So yeah, I think that those are things that are really important to look out for. And another thing that you mentioned too is maybe those training methods that they have are outdated. Like, I've seen a lot of trainers still alpha roll their dogs, and it's like, you guys, like literally the guy who came up with the alpha theory came back and was like, hey guys, like,
this
actually no.
Yeah,
actually no, this we did a whoopsie here.
Big whoopsie, and now everybody's doing it, making their dog freak out.
Yeah, and it's like, I honestly get really surprised when I hear things like that, when I hear people still using these training techniques, and like this whole, I think it just makes it worse for like the impression that people have about large dogs needing to have this, like, you got to be physical with them, like you got to tumble them over, and you got to be dominant, you got to make them submissive. Like, it really is shocking to me that I still see like people doing this.
That.
Yeah, because like you said, if you want to be better, you have to be a student. Like, I couldn't agree more with what you said. So because we were talking about, e-collars and training tools, I'm sure that you get in your DMs a lot of people asking you about, my puppy is this many months old, or my dog is this many months old. Can I start using an e-collar? Can I start using the prong collar? Can I start doing this? And when I get questions like that, I am so thorough, and I don't take those questions lightly, because there are so many factors that come into play. So I wanted you to, talk a little bit about training tools and at what point they should be introduced, for any dog, and then for dogs with behavioral issues. So I would, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, you get this question, my God, like 5 times a day at least. It's pretty insane. But I mean, there's a critical learning period for your dog. And I say, that's very young. You never want to introduce any real negatives when they're super little, because that's how you introduce fear too early. So I feel like when they're super little, anytime, from the day you get them, up until around 5, 6 months, depending on the breed, you really want to encourage any curiosity they have. Like in the house, they should always be on something, whether it's a flat collar and, a training lead or a traffic lead, I'm sorry, or just a harness and, a traffic lead or a full leash if you want. Like you have to have them on something in the house just so you can direct them and make sure, hey, this is good and this is bad. But you never want to introduce any tools too young, because even though, prong collars and things like that simulate like how their mother treats them when they're little, us as humans will naturally do things too hard. So like a mom knows, oh, okay, a mama dog knows, okay, this is how hard I can correct my puppy, where humans don't. So we could do something, even though a prong collar is one of the most amazing tools in dog training, we could do something too hard or, a little inappropriately for our dog, and that could do a little damage to our relationship when they're that young. So when they're really little, up until like after they're done teething, I'd say, or even, around that teething phase, is, hey, you really want to make sure that you're doing a lot of positive, you're encouraging their curiosity. If you see they're scared of something, you don't want to be like, oh, it's okay, honey, you don't have to go near that. Like, because no, that's you encouraging that fear in your puppy. So when they're little, in the house, always have them on something where you can direct them and help guide them and be like, this is good. You really want to conquer your fear. You want to do these things. Even a lot of trainers who do working dogs or sport dogs, like when they're little, hey, they'll put a bottle, like, a kitty full of water bottles and throw their dog in there because they want them to get used to the sounds, or, a ball pit and things like that. And you really want to do a lot of encouraging behaviors. But I'd say, anytime after around 6 months, if I have a really bigger breed that matures a little faster, like 5.5 months, I'll have German Shepherds on prongs, especially if their owners are really in tune with walking them. Their neck muscles are developed enough so that it's not going to cause any harm to them at all. Even if you have somebody who's correcting a little too hard, which happens, and it's not going to cause any issues with them because they're still developing and stuff like that. So that's around the time I'd say you can use a prong collar and things like that. If you have a great puppy who you've been training since day one, and they can heel perfectly, and they can down every single time, and they can sit, and they can place it, and they can do all their commands every single time, absolutely amazingly, throw an e-collar on them at 6 months, great. As long as you know how to teach them what it means, and they know every single command on the dime, 9 times out of 10. If your dog can't do that, you shouldn't be putting an e-collar on a young puppy, because that's not what it's for. It's not for correction. It's not for, oh, oh, you did this wrong, zap. And like people used to think back in the day, like that's not what those e-collars are for. They're for, yeah, you can use them as a correction. And generally I use a vibrate or a higher level stimulation, but you always want everything you do in dog training to be positive, even if you are correcting them with a prong collar and e-collar. Okay, we said no, we gave them a little pop on the collar. Great job, you get a treat. You stop being, bad and scary and doing whatever you're doing. You get a lot of rewards and you get good things. So even when they see that prong collar, if I say, e-collar for Kala, that's what I say because I'm crazy. She runs into the room and she like puts her head into that e-collar. So she doesn't care. She's pumped. She's ready to see her e-collar. I say collar for Kala for her prong collar. And no matter what I say, she is ready, and she just puts her head right in, and I put her prong collar on, or I put her e-collar on, and she's pumped. Like she's not, oh God, no, like that's scary. And if it was for that, even though, yeah, I had to, when she was lunging at people and trying to bite them, I would have to correct her pretty hard sometimes because that's not appropriate. But, she loves her tools. She absolutely loves them. And she knows as soon as she sees them, she's going to work. Like she is excited. So me going off rambling again.
Don't worry.
Anytime that your dog, anytime after like around 6 months, I'd say, or if it's a faster developing mentally and physically dog, maybe a little bit sooner. But you always want to encourage those positive behaviors, and then start to build in like, okay, no, this isn't acceptable as they get older and more mature. And we as humans, like I said, sometimes do things a little bit too rough compared to what their moms would do, even though, prong collars are stimulating that. And e-collars should never just be strictly for correction. It should be for reinforcement and building the relationship with your dog, in short.
Yeah. And like what you said, that, Kala comes running and she's all happy. That is a perfectly conditioned dog to those tools. She knows that he's going to go out to work. And it's the same thing with Dante and Peach. They know as soon as they hear me picking up like the e-collar, they're like at the door. They're like wagging their tails. They're like, oh, we're going to go do something really fun. And that, I think that what is really important too, like you mentioned, is like, how is your relationship with your dog? Like if you can't get your dog 9 times out of 10 to do the command, then you gotta fix something. Like there's something going on with your engagement.
They're walking
like
all over you.
yeah, or like they think you're really boring. And like, you know, you just gotta you really have to be honest with yourself and be like, okay, like, because that's something that concerns me, because that's something that I see and I'm like, I don't want people to think that like prong collars and e-collars are like, you're gonna put this on your dog and it's gonna magically fix them, because you have to have a good relationship with them for them to understand. Like I think there is this, I think Larry Crone said this, he said a correction means more when you have a good relationship or something like that. It just means more to your dog, you know, as opposed to like if you have a dog that's already not listening to you, you're just going to put on an e-collar or a prong collar, it's not going to be a positive experience for your dog. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and it's something that concerns me a lot of times, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really don't want people to think that this is like, okay, everything's gonna be fixed.
It's magic.
With these training tools. Exactly. So yeah, that is something that I always think about with those DMs.
Always.
Yeah, I did want to ask you a little bit about your own business. So I wanted to ask you, I know that you're based in New Jersey. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about how it works, especially for anybody that's listening and for anybody that's interested in your services. What do you offer? Yeah.
So with any dog, I tell everybody I kind of do like a package, because even if you're like, oh, my dog has perfect obedience, blah blah blah, you know, this and that, but you know, sometimes they don't listen out in public, sometimes they don't do this. Well, just me as a trainer hearing that and understanding that, okay, your dog needs more than just, I want to do e-collar and off leash work. If they're not sitting every time, like we said before, if they're oh, you know, most times when I say come, I'm like, well, what does most times mean? Like, you know, because I do these consult calls and I'm like, well, most times is when they're like, well, if they see a squirrel or they see another dog or they see a person, then they won't come. So I do a package deal no matter what, because once I get there, there's always something else that's just more than basic obedience. So I always do a package for all my clients. I do travel. So anywhere, I'm based out of like the Jersey Shore. So anywhere within an hour I will travel to. But if if somebody calls me and they're like, hey, you know, I heard you're really good with reactive dogs. I really want to work with you. My dog has just bitten someone. I don't know what to do. I do always go to them, because I have been there and I didn't trust anybody with my dog. So if somebody calls me crying on the phone and they're like, they just bit somebody, you know, this person's not going to sue me. Nothing's happening. I just want to help my dog. I do go there. And yeah, sometimes the drive sucks, but I would rather see somebody who feels confident with who's handling their dog, with somebody who knows how to handle their dog and isn't just going to yank them around and make them feel bad. And, you know, you've been a bad owner. No, because that's not going to help. You want to encourage the owner. You want to encourage the dog. It doesn't matter if they've had a bite record before or, you know, whatever it is, that dog can be helped no matter what. So I try to stick within that whole hour range, but if it's somebody who truly, truly needs help, I'll go a little bit further. So aside from that, every single package is personalized to whatever the client's needs are. So we always, always, always get down the basics of a nice structured heel walk, sit down, place, always, every single time. I don't care what your goals are, we're always doing that. Because that is something that is so important for any single dog. And then after that, we can do whatever. We do a lot of e-collar work, off leash, because I will always use an e-collar if your goal is off leash. Because you can have the best trained dog in the world. You can have a stinking competition dog who's been titled IGP protection. I don't care. But even in those dogs, they're still animals. So yeah, sometimes they're going to want to chase that squirrel. And okay, if you're like, come here, they don't care, they're going. So you have to have some way to talk to your dog. So if somebody's goal is for off leash, we always use e-collar. And then we even do things like, oh, I want to go to breweries with my dog. Okay, well, my thing is traveling. So hey, why don't we go to a brewery one day? I'm not going to drink because I'm going to be working all day, but hey, let's go to a brewery and you can be with me and I can show you how to handle your dog. I want to learn how to trim my dog's nails. Okay, we're gonna trim your dog's nails today. That's fine too. What's the weirdest thing? Oh, something, it was so weird. So I had a reactive shepherd lab mix yesterday actually. And, you know, we're helping the mom be confident, even the dad, like he's walking on leash and he's just bolting ahead of them, like, so we're going over that, and he's in a structured sit, and somebody just, they pull up their car and they have a lizard, like, literally, I can't make this up. They had a lizard on their shoulder, and they take the lizard out. It's like, hey, look at the dog, and they have the lizard like looking at the dog.
Just like out like that?
Yes, it was like
Oh
riding in the car on their shoulder. I can't make this up. And so the dog was like starting to growl because this guy's literally holding the lizard out of the dog. I was like, hey, just like correct him for that, because she was getting a little nervous. So even dumb things like that, obviously that's not something anyone's gonna ask for you to train on. But hey, weird things like that happen. So I mean, you have to be prepared to be like, okay, there's this weirdo guy that's pulled up with a lizard and is shoving a lizard in my dog's face, and she didn't even know what to do, and I was just laughing. I was like, hey, just get this lizard out of the dog's face, man. The weirdest experience I've ever had training. One of the weirder ones, but even things like that, you got to be prepared for, apparently. So, and how to handle. So it's really tailored to everybody's needs. And what they want. Some dogs we teach how to swim. Like, I'm not, it's not like we're dock diving or something, but hey, my dog's scared of the waves. We go to the bay because I live by the bay. I'm like, I don't, not really the best idea to have your dog swimming without you. But if we want to go into the bay and just get them used to the noise of the waves, hey, we can do that. So everything is tailored to them. I do basic obedience, off-leash obedience, obviously behavior modification. I have a lot of bite cases. And thankfully to this day, everything's been really good. I haven't had, a dog yet that hasn't improved in some way. So I do behavior mod. So that's really the gist of it. And then I obviously, like I said, I do travel. I have a lot of clients that actually do come down from out of state. Like I have some from New York, they come down and, we'll meet at a park instead of their house. I do like training at people's homes because that's where a lot of the dogs will act more like themselves. When I was going to training with Kala, she was always better outside of the house. Always. She always would show off, even when she was super reactive. Outside of the house, she always tried to be really good. So I feel like your dog that's their home, that's their turf. So they're going to act more like themselves. But if I do have a client that's out of state, we'll meet at a park somewhere. We'll meet halfway because, like I said, choosing your trainer is so important. It's somebody that you feel confident and comfortable with. That's key, because that's who you're going to learn from. If you feel so like standoffish with a trainer that you're with, or you just don't communicate in the same way, that's not good for you, and that's not good for your dog. So, like I said, we do meet halfway sometimes. I work in, anywhere that's pet friendly when your dog is at that point. We will do field trips. Like I said, we'll go to breweries, we'll go to Home Depot, Lowe's that are dog friendly. If there's a dog friendly cafe, we'll go there. We'll do little hikes. So it depends. Like I said, everything is customized for every single person, but we'll always get the basics, e-collar, off leash, and then behavior modification with little field trips when they get there.
Awesome. And would you say that you specialize in shepherds, or is there like a particular breed that you're, I don't know, is like your favorite, or I want to know about that.
I love German Shepherds. I mean, obviously because that's my dog, and then my mom, because Kala was banned from my mother's at one point. She literally will tell anybody. She's like, no, Kala wasn't allowed to come here anymore. That's my grand dog, because she was that bad. But after she saw all the changes that Kala went through, she got a Shepherd. So Havoc, that you see all the time, that's my mom's dog. So I'll work with him a lot, obviously, because I live here, but he's not even mine. So she ended up getting one, and then my best friend has one. So Shepherds are like a big thing in my life. Like my friends on Instagram, or like my friends in general, they'll be like, oh, you're Shepherd queen. And I just love them. And I know that they're so misunderstood. I don't think I specialize in any dog, but I do understand Shepherds because they are just a very misunderstood breed. Everybody thinks, oh my God, they're so big and tough and scary. They're some of the most scared dogs ever, because they are so smart. They're so stinking smart that they're scared of everything, because we encourage that fear. Like I said, they get scared, they get spooked. Oh, it's okay, honey. And we don't make them face it. And they're like, oh, great. So anytime I act scared, or anytime I lash out, or anytime I do this or that, I get my way. And they're so smart that they pick up on that after one time. Like most dogs do, but Shepherds are just they're so on it. So I really, really love Shepherds. I love Malinois. I love Golden Retriever. I love all dogs. I could just keep going. But if I'm talking about I don't know. I love German Shepherds. Just because I know they're misunderstood. But next dog, maybe like I might get, I'm more than likely going to get a Malinois because I do want to train like a real working dog and do like PSA work. So that would be really cool. Or a golden.
Or a golden.
Yeah, so it's like
there we get like this really intense dog.
Yeah,
or golden.
Yeah. So my in-laws dog, he's a golden, and that's Paula's like best friend of all time. He's so goofy and sweet. So, but I do. One of my friends out in California, she's the head of PSA in the Bay Area, so she's breeding her dog. So I'll probably get one of her puppies. As long as we have a house and stuff. But I'm rambling again.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I love shepherds. I love working with them because they're misunderstood. And I feel like a lot of bite cases in shepherds, there are some true dominant, aggressive, scary ones, but it's very rare. But most of the bite cases I have gotten with shepherds, it's just because of the lack of leadership and understanding of their dog, honestly. But what are your favorite? Because you have 2 Corsos, so.
Yeah, so I feel like it's so like, when you have your dog and you've worked through so much with your dog, and it's like, it's your dog, especially if you had a dog with reactivity, right? You have to be so involved, you have to be so like in tune with your dog that you just start to like love them to the point that you're like, oh my God, I love you and I love all of the ones that are
exactly.
So, like it just like every time like I see a Corso, like my heart melts. I don't know, it's just because it reminds me of Dante. So but I do love Corsos. I have worked with shepherds before, and I have to agree with you, they're the dogs that caught on to everything the quickest, and they are also the dogs that I felt that bonded with me the most for some reason. Like they just like there was this one dog in particular that she, like if I left, like she would just lose her marbles, and I was like, oh crap, like now we have to work on your separation anxiety with me. Like you only met me for like 2 days, like girl, come on. So they're the type of dog that they definitely do leave an impression on you. And it's funny because I actually wanted a shepherd initially, but we came to a compromise with my husband because I knew that he really wanted a Mastiff. He used to own like a Brazilian Mastiff before. So he had one of those dogs, and it was like special for him. So I was like, you know what, fine. But the next dog is gonna be the dog that I pick. Like it's gonna be the breed that I want. And I was like already thinking like I'm gonna get a German Shepherd. And then I got Dante, and he just completely like, he changed me. Like I don't know, like he literally changed my life. Like I never expected to get as in, I never expected, like I always liked dogs, I always liked animals, but I never imagined to get as like involved the way I have now. Like I have a whole YouTube channel dedicated to him, and then my second dog was another Corso. So like the one that I was like, oh no, I'm gonna get my own dog. Like this time, he completely just, he stole my heart. So yeah, I would say that I'm definitely a sucker for Corsos.
I'm disgusting.
No,
because I get it. Like Kala is my life. Like because I was in dental. I love my job. I love doing dental, and I mean it's a good field. You can't complain about a dental job. You always have a job. But like if I didn't have Kala, my life would be totally different. Obviously, like I named my freaking company after her because I'm crazy, but it's like I totally
girl, you're gonna make me cry too.
We're ridiculous. So I can't.
Like it's crazy because it's like you're like he like changed my life. Like he changed everything. Like I know that like maybe some people who don't have dogs, like they're like, oh my god, this is really,
excessive.
Like, exaggerated. Like guys, it's not healthy. But it's just that like I think that it's really important that my dogs are like family members, they're not just like I'm gonna leave them in the backyard, like how you see a lot. I'm gonna leave them backyard, just whatever, get back home, like just kind of like an accessory. Like I have this nice looking dog. No, like he's part of our family. Like he's literally part of our family. Like I know, like I always say, like I know my dogs would die for me, you know.
Exactly. So like Kala
it makes it so special. So it's like it makes it really special, and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm really happy that I have Dante. And it's really funny that you also had a reactive dog, and I don't know, it's really funny how many things we have in common.
So weird. Oh man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So yeah, last question that I wanted to ask you, actually, I just wanted for you to go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you if they want to see more of your content. You know, if they want to get in contact with you, where can they find you?
So I am on everywhere that I'm on is Kalas K9s, like Kalas, and then in K9s, keep it easy and simple. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I kind of screwed up my Facebook for a while, so you won't really see anything on there too much. And then my website is kalask9s.com too. And I will probably be starting YouTube soon after my trip over to England. Yeah. So I'm probably going to make that
the
first one. Yeah. So we're going to see Will in like 2.5 weeks. Such a whirlwind, yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna be going out there and doing a lot of fun stuff, working at the sanctuary and doing some training. So I think that'll be my YouTube debut.
Your debut. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll probably be doing that.
So
right now, Instagram, Facebook, and then my website, all Kalas K9s. And then hopefully YouTube pretty soon if I get my act together.
Yes. You can totally do it. I think you're gonna do great.
Oh, thanks.
I think you have like a great personality for this. I think that you are like super relatable, and I think that, you know, you definitely don't come off as like, you know, arrogant or anything like that, or conceited.
Thanks.
Like you're very, like somebody that I think that you're somebody that people can feel like, okay, like, you know, I can talk to this person, I can talk to them about my dogs, like they're not gonna judge me or whatever. So
duh.
Yeah,
Last
so
one. I'm on Fenrir K9 YouTube too. I'm on YouTube already. So that's Fenrir K9 training channel, and then the Fenrir K9 show I'm also on. So you can find me on that too. I'm already on YouTube, but I'm not on my own.
Yeah. So guys, when she does have her YouTube, everybody go ahead and subscribe. Also, check her out on all of her other socials. Yeah, she puts some interesting stuff in there. I always make sure to look and like.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for, you know, coming here and chatting with us. I had a great time talking to you, and I think that a lot of people are going to be encouraged by this. I would say, you know, having a dog with reactivity can be really challenging, and you know, a lot of owners maybe might feel like they don't have somebody that they can look to, or, you know, somebody that is not going through the same issues. So I just, you know, for everybody that's watching, I want you to understand that you know, you can have a reactive dog, and there is a way to work through those things, and that, you know, it's not like they're alone. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say, and I'm really happy that you were able to join us. So thank you so much, and see you guys later. Bye.